All right, I had to pause that first part, so I'm going to pick up here in part 2. So as I was saying, where the first video left off, if you believe in your mind that the government is going to tell you everything, it kills me how people sit here and make all these conspiracy theory videos and write all these books on conspiracy theories. Any government is not going to make certain information publicly known. One, because it's a system of control. They need to control. It's control damage, and it's also to prevent fear and panic. Because my question is, if they came out tomorrow and said, yes, there are extraterrestrials amongst us, there will be some of us who would be able to deal with it and comprehend it, but some people would go batshit crazy. Okay? Now, if you look how technology has evolved drastically in the last 50 to 100 years, some say that's due to our contact with, again, extraterrestrial intelligence. Okay? Now, again, I'm not forcing anybody to accept or believe anything I'm saying. I can only tell you the research I've done, and I can only give you my thoughts on it. And my thoughts, I do stand in the position, yes, it does exist. Yes, there's plenty of evidence to suggest that's real. But bottom line is this, for the fanatics and the ones that go batshit stupid crazy with this, my thing I ask is, if there was an extraterrestrial invasion tomorrow, what would you be able to do to stop it? Okay? More than likely, nothing. You wouldn't have anything in your power. So I'm saying that to bring the point up, regardless of your stance on this, you still have to exist and live your life to the best of your ability. Now, if you understand the science of psychic self-defense and increasing your spiritual powers, you wouldn't be worried about stuff like that. If you were grounded and centered in your spiritual path and your spiritual growth, you wouldn't be worried about that. But if you're going to live your life in fear and live every day of your life that at some day there's going to be some type of alien invasion, then you're going to have a very miserable existence. Okay? Now, how does this correlate and tie into our path of the occult and the left-hand path? Is there a connection? Yes, when you look historically, there is. And this is why you keep hearing me say, don't put a time frame on some of these gods and goddesses that we acknowledge on this path, like Lilith, like Lucifer, like Azazel, because they connect to a group of beings we call the Watchers, right? Or the Nephilim, right? When we study the dark gods and goddesses of ancient Chem in Egypt, and we're dealing with the Netiru or the Neteru, when you're dealing with these gods and goddesses, right, there is evidence to suggest that some of these Egyptian deities are traced back to the Orion constellation. Because when you look up the alignment of the pyramids that we know in ancient Egypt, they're aligned with that Orion constellation. And some scholars say that these were landing markers for these crafts to come to this planet. Those pyramids were sacred sites also, but one of their uses were landing markers for these individuals to enter in and out. Krito Mutua talks about visitation by reptilian beings from other galaxies. I mean, I could be here all day talking about this. David Icke, whether you agree with him or not, and I believe David Icke, or how you pronounce it, Icke, he has a lot of good information. You cipher through. He's produced a lot of evidence. He's collaborated in the past with Krito Mutua, right? So Dr. Delbert Blair, who I've had in the past before he transitioned on, had a lot of conversations about extraterrestrials and other life forms visiting this planet. Now, Dr. Delbert Blair believes he was a contactee and he was abducted and programmed and used as a vessel to get information and knowledge out. Now, I personally can't confirm that, but from talking to Dr. Delbert Blair, He definitely had an experience. I do know that. Can I confirm 100% everything you're saying? No. But I got to use common sense and basic reasoning to reason those things out. It's that simple. So I do believe he definitely had some experience, subjective or not. But he really believed that he was a contactee. And if you look at his work, you know, the tree is proof of what type of fruits. You know, I mean, the fruits from the tree is proof of what kind of works that he bear. And the man definitely was locked into something. He was definitely, in my opinion, connected to a higher power. If that's the term you want to use. He was locked in, connected to something. Right? So there is a connection to this on our path, but we have to stay grounded. We don't want to go to Spookyville. We don't want people to get, bug out and wig out. Of course, a lot of the spirits and demons and gods and goddesses that we work with exist outside of person, place, and thing. Exist outside of our Milky Way galaxy, right? Or outside of what we're terming. Look, what would be the purpose for all these other galaxies in the universe if the Milky Way galaxy and the planets in our solar system were the only planets that, quote unquote, had a connection to life form? Now, yes, there's other stuff out there like the face on Mars, right? That's been a big thing over the years. Some say that face on Mars was used as a landing site or markers for extraterrestrial life form. 100% can't prove that, but you have people like Zachariah Stitchin who also made claims that that was a laboratory or a stopping ground for the Anunnaki before they visited Earth. So look, there's a lot of theories out there. Some of these theories have some evidence to support it, but again, I think what you're gonna have to do is come to that conclusion through your research on your own terms. Okay? You're gonna have to basically come to that understanding and realization based on what you uncover in your research. Now, the deep thing is, if you believe that you are a direct product and lineage of divinity and a direct descendant of these gods and goddesses, which we are, because when you look at the movie Aquaman and a lot of these stories, it talks about our struggle to understand the human or mortal part of our nature and the divine or godlike part of our nature. So we have within us, most definitely, the very essence of these gods and goddesses that are talked about in these great cultures and civilizations. Because the next question that comes up, why do they come here? Why do they visit here? What would be their purpose? Some say they're returning for their children. Some say they connect because they have direct descendants here. And again, I'm just putting the information out there. I'm not trying to say or force anybody to accept without confirming for yourself. Okay? So, as you do your research, and I'm sure there's a lot of you watching and listening to this, having come across and encountered this information. And remember, this path is not about, you may not accept something because you just don't like it. That's just not how this works. There are certain things you're going to have to acknowledge in your spiritual journey, whether you like them or not. It's not about, truth is just about receiving truth. It's not about, I'm not going to vibe with that because I don't like it. It just means you don't like it. Okay? That's all that means. Let's get that clear. Let's not get that twisted. And make intelligent decisions when you come to conclusions on subjects like this. That's the best thing that I can tell you. But history, culture, a lot of evidence that scholars have uncovered have shown that this stuff exists. Now, my thoughts. So you might be saying, Baniti, having said all that, what is your thoughts on this? And again, I'm speaking for myself. Okay? I'm in alignment with that. Yes, this does exist, 100%. Now, I'm not in alignment with being a space cadet and spooky and freaking out. Having said that, I have to live my life and fulfill my divine purpose or divinity, because I believe I am one of those gods in the sense that I control my own destiny. I'm not relying on any inferior force or giving the power to any inferior force outside of myself that has control over me, because then you become a slave to that. So it's pointless if you are an individual that takes the position that you accept this, but you've turned into an extraterrestrial space cadet nuthead, then you become part of the sheeple, right? You become part of those individuals who are programmed or mentally enslaved and live in an existence of fear. See, I refuse to do that, okay? I'm not going to get into personal experience that I might or may not have had with this, because that's irrelevant, right? This is a topic that comes up. You know, people have come from that line of information over to the occult, and some have struggled to process that because they may have come from a UFO, extraterrestrial background, but they just didn't know how to process that. So my job is to try to level that out for you, to balance that out, to harmonize that out for you. So some people tend to think because we're on this path, we can't study other ideologies. Like I said, not everything is about gloom and doom. Like I said, even though we get on sometimes the religious folks and the right-hand path philosophers, there's a lot of nutbags on this path too. Not everything has to be, I'm so dark and raw and I devour shit and all. It doesn't always have to be about that. We do have an intellect that we can expound and expand on other areas of interest. I just want to make that clear. We're not confounded to, don't fall into the stereotype in order to be on the left-hand path in the occult that you can't have other interests. I even see this in people's everyday life. Like, you can't have hobbies and activities and be into sports or have some type of recreational things you enjoy doing, as if like everything 24/7 is, I'm in my black attire summoning Satan. And I mean, stop it, people. Stop it. That's not being a well-rounded, productive individual. Okay? Somebody who's really rooted in their existence enjoys life. So whether we talk about a topic like this, let's see what time we got on there. Okay. Whether we talk about a topic like this, whatever your position in it is, stay grounded, people. Because at the end of the day, you still got to live. You still got to survive. You still got to pay your bills. You still got to take care of your family if you have a family. You still have to do things that you need to do to live. So what are you going to do? Stop living? Because I'm telling you, man, there's people out there that live in fear, man. There's people out there who live in pure ignorance, is the best way I could describe it. Pure ignorance. Okay? And I refuse to live in that state. Okay? Now, there's people also, to connect further the existence of extraterrestrial life form, there's people that work with the Necronomicon and Babylonian and Sumerian magic. They work with the Anunnaki, right? If you're working with the Anunnaki and you study the Anunnaki culture, right, and you look at beings like Marduk, Enlil, Tiamat, right? Tiamat is a spiritual goddess that we work with, or a goddess on this path of the occult. And if you embrace Tiamat as a goddess on whatever methodology, whether that's literal, metaphorical, you are embracing that aspect of that information and that culture. Because when you read the story of the Anunnaki and Nibiru, right? They talk about Nibiru. They talk about it being, Planet X, or the 10th planet. That it's a planet that is making its way through our galaxy, and some believe it's heading this way. I mean, there's all these There's all these different theories. So there is elements of it connected to our path. But those of us who are really grounded and rooted in this path, we're not going to go to Spookyville with it. Okay? We're not going to sell you fairy tales. We're not going to sell you stories to sensationalize them just to captivate your emotions, because that becomes seriously dangerous. And that's why I don't do it. I remember years ago there was a period where I was heavily into UFOs and extraterrestrials and phenomena, and I kind of got wrapped up into it a bit heavy, but I started to see people around me getting a little too nutbag for me. I'm just going to keep it for what it is. They started to get disconnected from reality. And that could become a dangerous thing, because you can go to Spookyville, and I'm going to be honest with you, you can go to Spookyville, right? But what could happen is you could go to Spookyville and not come back. That's the point. And that could be very dangerous. I've seen people go batshit crazy. I've seen people going literally psych wards. I've seen people thinking they were other beings from other galaxies. I'm not even exaggerating. Which leads me to my next topic. Abductees. Right? There's people who claim to be abductees. Okay? I've talked and touched on this in the past. Okay? I'm just going to be honest with you. That's very personal. There's two sides to this. Some people look at it as completely bizarre and irrational. Some people think it's real. Again, there's evidence to suggest that this does happen. Is there bullshit out there? Do I think some people run with it and get batshit crazy? And are there some people even lying and making shit up? Yeah. I'm sure there is. Just like anything else. I'm sure there is. 100%. Okay? But in my research, listening to some of the information on people who have claimed to be abducted, one thing I can draw the conclusion, something definitely did happen, regardless if you just say, well, maybe that's just subjective. Maybe they're imagining it, right? We hear this term. Maybe they're just imagining it. It's still a subjective experience. It's still them tapping into their subjective realm and having some type of experience. No different when you might do a ritual and you connect with a spirit or a demon. It's not really that much different when you look at it, right? I do think, too, there are dangers, because it gets to the point where it ruins and destroys some people's life, because I don't think some people are able to be equipped to deal with it. So now the next question comes, well, why did they come here? Why did they abduct and experiment with people? Well, listening to what people describe happens with it. It's as if they're studying our DNA. It's as if they're studying our RNA. There's always the talk of drawing of blood. There's the talk of mind control, or tapping into our minds via telepathy. So it's as if they're studying our anatomy, our brain, our mind, our genetics, and our DNA, right? Because some believe that a lot of these intelligent beings that came here from other galaxies, that they are intelligent life forms, and they're coming here that are intelligent life forms, that they are also scientists studying our planet. There's a lot of theories that when you look at the planet Earth, it is rich in natural resources and minerals, such as water. So some say these intelligent life forces come here because we have an abundance of natural resources that they can utilize, right? Some believe, some of them come here that they're predators and they come here for play, to hunt. Okay? I'm just throwing a lot of stuff that's out there. Again, I'm not telling you to 100% accept or believe this. You got to do this in your research. So, because I have to be careful what I say, because I don't want to create conspiracy theories and fear, right? So, whether there's going to be an invasion, if you believe there's an invasion or not, my thing is, you still got to stay locked in the moment, the now. What are you doing right now? What are you doing? Like I said earlier, if that would have happened tomorrow, next week, or next year, or 10 years from now, and you were here, what would you be able to do to prevent it? Because if you truly believe, once you transition out of here, through the natural cycle of what we refer to as death, it shouldn't affect you like that, right? It shouldn't weigh you down to the point where you live in fear like that. That's why I don't embrace it like some fanatical people do. And there's a lot of fanatical people out there that talk sideways. I mean, just crazy shit. And they just are part of the problem, not the solution, because they're pumping fear. Now, there's the other thing. I try to tell people to keep people grounded in reality. A lot of people want to go into outer space, but we got a lot of fucked up problems going on right here. A lot of people got fucked up shit going on in their life, and you worry about going beyond the clouds. That's not practical. Okay? And this is why you must stay in the moment. Be conscious. Be aware. That's all you could do. And then keep building and growing on your spiritual path of self-mastery. And you will start to see things start to fall in alignment. This is why I don't too much get caught up on what's going on in the news. You know how many emails I get? People reach out to me about some conspiracy shit they heard, something they saw in the news. Or look, if you're that affected by the news and the media, which we know is one of their number one weapons they use to keep people in a state of fear and control their minds, why would you feed into that shit like that? I don't feed into that shit like that. Okay? So even though I may not talk about a lot of these topics all the time, doesn't mean I'm not conscious or aware of them. It's just I tread lightly with that because I don't want people to, again, run the Spookyville. Because some people you can have an intelligent conversation about this. Some people you can't. Because they'll start bringing in their personal feelings on it. Then the religious folks get offended. Oh, there's no way. God is this, man. And then it's like, because really the whole extraterrestrial phenomenon destroys the whole religious concept. It really makes them look bad. All right. But anyway, having said that, I'm actually in the process of pulling up to get my son. I'm gonna have to cut this video soon as I head out. I mean, there's a lot more to talk about this. Hopefully this opens you up a little bit. There's a lot more to get into. This is not the tell-all. I just wanted to do a quick touch on this, all right? So if you need to reach out to me, you know where to hit me up, khnum19@gmail.com. Check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Tier 3 is the way to join and get in on my monthly classes. And that's the best way to get at me, all right? Infernal blessings, and we'll talk soon.